What the heck are ND filters and why do we need them? I've actually got an ND filter on this camera right now. Let me pull it off and show you the difference. All right, same settings, I didn't cut, same camera. Just took the ND filter off. I don't even know if you can see what I'm doing because it's so blown out, but we're gonna talk about ND filters and why they are important and what you can use them for. It's pretty bright out here, and a good analogy for what ND filters do, you could say they're kind of like sunglasses for your lens and your camera. So I'm out here, the sun's in my eyes, I'm like, the sun, no. But if I put on sunglasses, it's much better. I can see, my eyes aren't squinting anymore. I'm not fighting the sun to stop my retinas from burning. It's great, I feel much better. What the sunglasses are doing for my eyes are kind of like what an ND filter does for your camera. It cuts down the amount of light that comes into the lens and hits your sensor or your film, and it allows for longer shutter speeds, a much more open aperture for shallower depth of field, and it also makes you seem like you're really cool and know what you're talking about when you pull out your ND filters and talk to your friends and you're like, whoa, look at this thing that I got for my camera. It was like $300, but it makes it super good. And they're like, what are you talking about? And you're like, it's a photographer thing. You wouldn't get it. There are round screw type filters like this one. This is a Gobe, Gobe, Gobe. I don't know how to say it. So this is a 5-stop ND, and this is just like a single strength, screws onto the front of your lens, and it's 5 stops. There's also ND filters that are square or a little bit rectangular that go into matte boxes, which is something else entirely. But yeah, they look like this. And that is just a square of solid ND, just like that circular one I was telling you about. And then we have variable NDs, which that I have on my camera right now is a variable ND from Moment, actually. Moment is not sponsoring this video, but they did send me free stuff to try out, full disclosure. So Moment did send me a few ND filters and some other stuff to check out. So I will be talking about Moment stuff here, but they're not paying me, and they told me I have to be honest about what I think about this stuff, and I'm always honest, so that's gonna be fine. But I'm gonna give you the real deal of what I think about these filters, because I have some other filters I can compare them to. I have another Gobe, Gobe circular ND that is also variable that I can compare it to. I'm drinking Topo Chico today. I've had coffee this morning, but not right now. Twist of lime. So for video, why do we use ND filters? There is a standard from the film industry. I'm not going to go into all the specifics about it or what it means, but basically, if you are shooting a film or video, in America at least, NTSC standards, you want to be shooting at 1/48th of a second shutter speed and a 180-degree shutter. There's a lot of scientific reasons behind that. That's not what this video is about, but I just want you guys to know that's the standard of the film industry. It's what everyone shoots with. Basically what it does is it preserves believable motion blur. So when you're watching someone do something, the blur that you see looks like it would in real life. So that's the standard. Because of that, that's a pretty low shutter speed. You're going to be letting a lot more light hit the sensor or the film at a time because it's open for 1/48th of a second rather than like 200th of a second or 500th of a second. So a lot more light is being able to hit via the shutter. If you are shooting with a lens, say on a sunny day or indoors on a sunny day or with really bright lights, and you want to open the aperture of your lens all the way up so it's nice and blurry in the background, but your subject is separated, you are going to have some issues because you're going to be overexposed. On the shot of me walking down the stairs and taking a drink of my Topo Chico, I have my lens wide open at 2.8 and I have my shutter angle set to 180 degrees and 1/48th of a second. Now I didn't have to do that for that shot, but I used it to illustrate my point. When I took the ND filter off, those settings were way too overexposed for the shot, for the scene. The sun's out, There's no clouds in the sky. There's no diffusion or anything. It's just too much light on the sensor, and it looks bad because you can't freaking see anything. The ND filter takes that light that's coming into the lens and cuts it by whatever amount of stops that you choose. And that allows you to have a 180-degree shutter, or 1/48th of a second of a shutter, and a wide open aperture, which looks much better in some shots. Now we know what ND filters do, we can talk about types of ND filters that you might choose and use with your setup. To give you more of an idea of what I was talking about when I meant like film industry standards and settings, I want to tell you about my settings that I use for my professional work, my personal work, and when I'm shooting for YouTube. Right now, I'm shooting on my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. This camera I use for most of my professional and YouTube stuff, but I also shoot with this X-T3 quite a bit. I love this camera. The difference between these two cameras is the Pocket Cinema Camera 4K is a cinema camera, and it has cinema features which allow you to choose things like the shutter angle, whereas in the X-T3 you can just choose the shutter speed. So my settings for YouTube or professional work, whatever, most of the time there's going to be 24 frames a second or 23.976 if you want to be specific. And I leave my shutter angle at 180 degrees. In contrast, the X-T3 is a hybrid stills camera that has filmmaking features, so you can't choose things like the shutter angle. However, you can choose a shutter speed. In this camera, you can choose 1/48th of a second, which is twice 24 frames a second, which is where you want your shutter speed to be. In the beginning of this video, when you saw me remove the filter from the camera, you're seeing these settings in daylight outside, and obviously way too bright, not gonna work, gross. And that's where ND filters come in, and that's why these ND filters are so cool and helpful. You can shoot outdoors in bright scenes in bright sunlight, and you can get a beautiful cinematic image. Like, check this image out here. I'm shooting the same settings, wide open on my 2.8 lens, but I got this beautiful cinematic look. I'm not clipping anywhere. And that's because I'm using this moment variable ND, and I got it dialed in to the perfect spot. Look, I can change the exposure. Whoop. Just like that. Got my false color on. Looks great. Outdoor, it's noon, it's 12 o'clock. Sun is directly above me. This is a terrible time to do video historically because everything looks harsh and gross and it's really hard to get a good image, but with ND filters, cinematic image in bright sunlight is possible. It's possible, guys. And it works on the X-T3 and it works on the Blackmagic 4K, even when your neighbor is vacuuming his lawn. Something like this, which is a variable ND, is something you're going to see a lot more often, especially if you're doing YouTube videos or you're doing projects yourself that you're self-funding, or if you're amateur and you're not spending a lot of money on equipment. This is something that's a lot more affordable and a lot more common in that space, whereas we have like fixed NDs like this one go into something called a matte box or a filter holder. And I'm not going to get into what matte boxes are now, it's a whole nother episode, but basically these sit in front of the lens and do the same thing that a circular screw-on ND filter would do, but this sits in a filter holder in a matte box instead. So if you're an amateur filmmaker, YouTuber like me, you're gonna be sticking with something like these screw-in ND filters. This one's a variable ND and this one's a fixed ND. Both of them have drawbacks and both of them have strengths, and we'll talk about what those are. A fixed ND like this one is going to be a lot less expensive. They're found all over the place. A lot of different brands make them. This one is my Gobe, Gobe ND, and this one is an ND32, which is 5 stops. And this one is relatively good. It's a decent quality. It works really great. I use this all the time, and I know I need a fixed value, and I can change my aperture. I'm not gonna try to be wide open all the time. I don't need to change this very often. I'll just use this guy. But with variable NDs, it's gonna be a little more expensive. They are variable, meaning that you can change the strength of the ND by turning usually this front element on the front here. There are lots of reasons to go for variable NDs. They are very convenient. I mean, all you have to do when you need a little more ND is you just stop it down. Oh, I need more ND, stop it down again. Oh, more ND? Okay, I'll just go ahead and stop it down some more. That is, I almost can't even see through that with my naked eye. I can look at the sun. No, I can't. It's still too bright. That was a bad idea. So these ND filters allow a wider range of ND strengths kind of at your fingertips, which is really, really convenient. However, the drawback is on some ND filters, like my workhorse Gobe, Gobe, NDX, this guy has a little problem called polarizing crossover. And what that is when you go past the end of the ND strength, once you go past the maximum, you kind of get these like crossover, like darker vignette spots on the sides that kind of like form an X. That ends up happening when you just need like a little bit more ND. And so you're trying to get a little bit more out of it, not just there, and then bam, you start getting the crossover. Oftentimes when you're recording, it's not obvious. You don't see it, you don't catch it. This has happened to me before when I was out running gun shooting. I didn't catch that it was doing that until I got home and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's ugly. And there's really no way to fix it. That can happen with variable NDs, which is a huge bummer. And a reason why I sometimes will use fixed NDs like the other Gobe, Gobe one that I have, because I don't have to deal with that when I'm out there running and gunning. The cool thing about the Moment ND filters is they have hard stops at both ends. So you can't go past the maximum amount of ND that this filter provides. What that means is you're never gonna get that crossover thing, which is great because that's the one thing with variable NDs that keeps me from using them all the time. I don't wanna encounter that on accident and end up ruining some footage because I didn't pay attention and I couldn't see that the little dreaded polarizing X pattern was showing up in my footage. That doesn't happen with these NDs, and that's why these are so great. I tested these NDs against my fixed NDs and my other variable NDs from Gobe, and honestly, they're all great. The Gobe NDs are very inexpensive, super affordable. They're readily available on Amazon. So if you are a young or just starting out filmmaker or YouTuber and you need ND and you don't have a lot of money to spend, those are a great option. I've been using the Gobe, Gobe ND filters for the last, I don't know, 2 years now. And while they do have their drawbacks, they're easy to kind of work around. And whatever, you just kind of use what you got to use when you want to get the work done and you got to create. But if you have a little bit more money to spend and you want to invest in some variable NDs that are going to last a long time, be a little bit higher quality and keep you away from the X polarizing pattern, the variable NDs from Moment are a great option. For my purposes, for YouTube and filmmaking, I don't see a reason at this moment to go any more expensive than this. They are more expensive than the other variable NDs, but when you factor in the higher quality and the fact that you're not going to deal with polarizer crossover, the dollar amount is more than justified. So Moment currently has 2 different flavors for their variable ND line. This is the ND4 to ND32, and this is the ND64 to ND512. I'm currently using the 4 to 32 on my camera right now. And for most things, indoors with controlled lighting and some stuff outdoors with diffusion, the 432 is probably going to be great for most people. But if you need a little bit more strength and you need a lot of it, if you're going to be out in the daylight, if you're going to be using really, really bright lights and you really need to have your lens wide open, the 64 to 512 is really amazing also. They're both exactly the same. They both have the hard stops. They both have the little markings, so when you turn it, you can see how much the strength is that you're using. So I have a link if you want to go check out the variable NDs that Moment has to offer on their website. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link, so any purchases you make using that link will support this channel, which is amazing, and I really hope that you guys buy a lot of things from Moment and help support this channel. They are awesome. They've been super great to me, and they'll be super great to you if you use my affiliate link. All right, I wanted this to be a quick video. I didn't want to be going on and on forever. But yeah, this was fun, right? If you have questions about neutral density filters in general, leave me a comment. I am more than happy to talk to you guys about this stuff because it's super nerdy and I'm a super nerd. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it. Again, if you follow the affiliate link in my description, it will take you to the Moment page. Anything you buy, again, will help support this channel. And we all know I need the support. My Topo Chico budget is out of control. You can check out Moment's variable NDs. You can check out the other cool photography stuff they're offering. And you can check out their marketplace where they currently are carrying stuff like from Fujifilm, from Sony, like cameras, lenses. They have tripods, all sorts of stuff. It's like a new one-stop shop kind of place for photographers and videographers, which is actually really cool. So yeah, again, if you're going to do that, go use my affiliate link. Please support, help, please help me, help. Let me know if you guys have any specific requests of stuff that you want me to cover, because I love when you guys give me ideas, because sometimes I don't think of all the ideas. I might seem like I have all the ideas. I don't. I have practically no ideas. Head empty. Brain no worky. All right, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, wear sunscreen every day, moisturize. Don't be on Twitter too much. Twitter's, I have Twitter, but don't. You can follow me on Twitter. Seastorm Photo at Twitter. Drink Topo Chico. They're not sponsoring this either. I have no sponsors. If you want to sponsor me, email me. I would love to have a sponsor. I would love to have this be my job. All right. See you later.